Welcome back to Through the Glass, where hockey meets heartbreak, humor, and just a touch of eyeliner. This week, the Flyers really put us through it. We had a national broadcast chaos, a 3 goals in 59 seconds takeover, a sentimental nostalgia tour on TNT, and a Sunday matinee against the top team in the league that ended painfully, but not without a lot to be proud of. We've got milestones, storylines, and emotional whiplash, and some of the most unintentionally funny broadcasting moments that I've seen in a while. We'll break down all 3 games from this homestand, take our lap around the league and NHL Roundup, and of course, we have a brand new hockey term of the week inspired by one very specific moment. And there's also something new in today's episode. A rotating segment I've been quietly shaping in the background finally gets its appearance today. Plus, we'll look into next week's matchups, including the Educator Appreciation Night, a much-anticipated reunion game on Thursday, and a challenging back-to-back to close out the weekend. So grab your tea, your liquid death, light a candle if you're feeling dramatic, and let's dive right in. The Flyers started off this week coming off a strong road performance, where they won 3 of their 4 games against some tough opponents, the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning, before closing out with impressive wins over division rivals, the New York Islanders and the New Jersey Devils. The first matchup of the week kicked off a 2-week homestand, and on paper, it should have been the perfect game to keep the momentum going. Battle of PA against longtime foes, the Pittsburgh Penguins. Well, the night couldn't have gotten off to a worse start. Who else but Sidney Crosby to open up the scoring, putting Pittsburgh on the board first. No one has scored more goals against the Flyers in recent history than this man, and he just keeps adding to that list. The Flyers did respond in the second period with a power play goal from Tyson Foerster, assisted by Travis Konecny and Trevor Zegras. But just a few moments later, Foerster got another glorious opportunity on a 2-man advantage, and then suffered a bizarre shoulder injury while taking a one-timer. He was visibly in pain and immediately left the ice. A scary moment and extremely unfortunate, as he has been the Flyers' top scorer for the season and had been on a hot streak as of late. As if that wasn't gut-wrenching enough, Sidney Crosby struck again, this time on the power play, giving him his second of the night and restoring the Penguins' lead, much to the absolute discontent of the home crowd. From there, the night just went downhill. The Foerster injury really seemed to drain the Flyers, and honestly, this was the first time this season that I found myself wishing the game would just end so they could move on to the next one. They lost this one 5-1, and let's hope we never have to talk about this one again. Post-game, Rick Tocchet acknowledged that the Foerster injury might have taken the guys out of it emotionally, and said he'd be giving the team the next day off ahead of their Wednesday matchup against the Buffalo Sabres. Wednesday arrived after a much-needed mental reset and day of rest, and the Flyers had the perfect opportunity to bounce back, facing a team that has been consistently at the bottom of the standings for years, the Buffalo Sabres. This game had a little extra juice since it was the national broadcast on TNT. I almost forgot I wasn't watching NBC Sports Philadelphia because the TNT broadcast was giving some serious Flyers glaze despite supposedly being neutral. During the pregame show, Liam McHugh interviewed Rick Tocchet, and they were reminiscing about Tocchet's TNT days. Puck drop came, and the Sabres got on the board first. But honestly, we like that. Well, I like that. If you've watched my episodes before, or literally any Flyers game, you know these guys are not used to making the first move or protecting leads. I almost prefer when they give up the first goal. They seem to get an extra jolt and a weird sense of confidence when they're playing from behind. It's comforting in a twisted way. And wouldn't you know it, the Flyers came back in a big way. Travis Konecny got things started with a snapshot power play goal, assisted by Matvei Michkov and Travis Sanheim. 38 seconds later, Trevor Zegras scored another power play goal to make it 2-1, and hold your popcorn because 21 seconds after that, Bobby Rink added one more, giving the Flyers 3 goals in 59 seconds and a 3-1 lead. Just 2 weeks ago, they made Flyers and NHL history by scoring 3 goals in 26 seconds. This trio of goals wasn't as fast, but still incredibly impressive, especially so soon after that record night. Noah Cates and Owen Tippett each added goals in the second period to lock in a 5-2 win, a much-needed bounce back after Monday's disaster. And, not exactly Flyers related, but the second half of TNT's doubleheader that night featured the Utah Mammoth absolutely bulldozing the Anaheim Ducks 7-0 on Anaheim's home ice on national TV. Flyers fans everywhere definitely appreciated that one, and subconsciously, it kind of just added to the Flyers' glaze that TNT had going all night. After that, the Flyers had 3 days off, during which they had their annual Flyers Charities Casino Night on Thursday, which gave them a chance to unwind, but hopefully, and more importantly, it gave them the time to prepare for their Sunday afternoon matchup against the top of the league, the Colorado Avalanche. The Sunday matinee game finally arrived, and it came with several milestones. Flyers captain Sean Couturier was playing his 900th career NHL game and doing it on his 33rd birthday. Flyers defender Nick Seeler was also hitting a milestone with his 400th NHL game. This one feels especially meaningful for Seeler since he stepped away from the NHL for a full year during the 2020-2021 season for a mental and physical reset after his contract with the Blackhawks was mutually terminated. He then came back on a one-year deal with the Flyers in the 2021-2022 season, found a renewed passion for the game, and really solidified himself as a reliable defender, so him hitting this milestone feels especially symbolic. Couturier opened the scoring on his 33rd birthday with a nice feed from Juleson, giving the Flyers a quick start. The Avalanche answered with a goal of their own about halfway through the opening period, and then, in the final minute of the first, added another to take the 2-1 lead into the intermission. They extended that lead to 3-1 just 2 minutes into the second period. 4 minutes later, Emil Andre sprung a wide-open Konechny on a breakaway. TK held on and beat Blackwood for his 499th career point, getting the Flyers back into it and cutting the deficit to 3-2. About 5 minutes into the third, Trevor Zegras drew a holding call, which resulted in a penalty shot and a chance to tie the game. He is now 0 for 3 in penalty shots, which is a tough stat considering how his shootout numbers have been. The Flyers pushed until the very end, putting a lot of pressure on Colorado and even outshooting them in the final period. In the final 2 minutes, they pulled Sam Ersson for the extra attacker, but just couldn't settle the puck for a clean setup, ultimately losing this one in a hard-fought battle against the league best Avalanche. A heartbreaking way to end the week, but honestly, there's still a lot to feel good about this team. And speaking of feelings, it's time to introduce a brand new segment, one that lets me unpack the chaos that didn't fit anywhere else. Let's get into the first ever Glass Shards. Welcome to Glass Shards, the segment where we sweep up all the chaos that didn't fit anywhere else. The strange, the unhinged, the overly dramatic. Basically my specialty. Here we don't recap, we react. And today, I've got a few shards to pick up. First up, the TNT broadcast. Tell me why a national broadcast felt like a Flyers family reunion.
Chucking nuts and throwing blows at each other. What happened?
Well, we discussed something on the air. You were there. And
between Liam McHugh and Rick Tocchet giggling like coworkers at happy hour, and Brian Boucher pulling double duty like the Flyers are paying him overtime. At one point, I generally forgot I wasn't watching NBC Sports Philadelphia. The glaze was unreal. And then the Flyers scored 3 goals in 59 seconds and completely hijacked the entire broadcast. Just welcome to the National League, brought to you tonight by the Philadelphia Flyers. It was giving hometown takeover. And then TNT said, you know what? Let's lean in, and brought in Danny Briere for a full nostalgia hour. We were reliving 2010, eliminating the Rangers, destiny arcs, character development, and at this point, TNT wasn't broadcasting hockey. They were hosting a Flyers-themed documentary night.
Rangers, playoffs on the line. It goes to a shootout, and there's Danny Briere skating down the ice, beating Henrik Lundqvist.
And speaking of things that shook the table, the Utah Mammoth beating the Anaheim Ducks 7-0 on national television was a spiritual event. Not mine, but someone's.
And the Utah Mammoth get it done. And for Pavelka, his first shutout.
Anaheim, babes, do you need a warm beverage, a blanket, a playlist? 7-0 is the kind of loss that just takes you on a walk at night just to process. And okay, one last shard, a personal one. During the Flyers 3-day break, I actually ran into one of the players at a grocery store that I go to all the time. And for privacy, I'm not going to say which player it was or where. Just know that I was living my normal life, wandering my little pasta aisle, and suddenly there was a flyer in the wild. And listen, I have a rule. I don't approach players when they're off duty, but they were like also blocking the exact section that I needed. So after pretending to read a box of pasta for like way too long, I think I just said something like, "Hey, I don't mean to bother you. I just wanted to let you know that you guys have been playing really great this season and it's been really fun to watch." And he was so sweet about it, just wholesome energy all around. And bestie, that moment absolutely ruined the rest of my grocery shopping rhythm. I was just zigzagging through aisles like I was avoiding an ex at a concert, just pure chaotic navigation. So now I'm curious, what's your take on approaching athletes or celebrities when they're off duty? Like if it's an athlete when they're not at a sporting event, or if it's like a musician when they're not at a concert. Have you ever had a fun encounter? Drop your stories in the comments. I genuinely want to hear them. And with that, the Shards have been swept. Let's head into this week's NHL Roundup. All right, y'all, time for the NHL Roundup, where we take a quick lap around the league, sip some chaos, see who's thriving, who's falling apart, and who might need a sage cleansing. Let's start in Colorado because the Avalanche simply refused to slow down. They became the first team in the NHL to hit 20 wins this season, and Nathan MacKinnon is acting like he's on a personal side quest to break every record available. He scored twice against the Rangers, including the OT winner, and tied Joe Sakic for the most goals in Avalanche history. He's leading the league in goals, points, fives, everything. And honestly, that's fine. Keep stacking up your wins. Sometimes you run into a hungry Flyers team on a Sunday afternoon and almost get humbled. Almost. Now, over in Pittsburgh, and I say this with pain in my soul, Sidney Crosby is still out here collecting milestones like Pokemon badges. He scored 2 against the Flyers this week, becoming the 14th player in NHL history to hit 300 career road goals. He's also now 8 points away from passing Mario Lemieux on all-time scoring list. Flyers fans, I know, it's rough. At this point, Crosby hitting milestones against us is basically seasonal depression. Moving on, before we all spiral, Patrick Kane refuses to age like a normal person. He scored another game winner this week, tying Zach Parise for third most game-winning goals by an American player. He's also creeping closer to Mike Modano's US-born scoring record and is now sitting at 497 career goals. So if your team is playing Detroit soon, thoughts and prayers. Now for the kids, San Jose's Macklin Celebrini continues his villain origin story in the best way. At just 19 years old, he became one of only 4 teenagers in NHL history to hit 40 points in 27 games or fewer. Meanwhile, at 19 years old, I was doing absolutely nothing of that. Sharks fans deserve something nice, and he is delivering. And we have to talk about Utah because the Mammoth had themselves a week. They beat Vancouver, they lost to San Jose, and they went to Anaheim and won 7-0, 7-0. That's the kind of loss that forces a team to stare in the mirror and ask philosophical questions. A few quick hits from the rest of the league. Florida came back from 4-1 and 6-4 to win 7-6 in overtime because the Panthers only play games that shave off years from your life. Jesper Wallstedt earned his 4th shutout in 6 appearances. Minnesota, we see you. Victor Hedman returned to the Lightning lineup after missing 12 games. Cole Caulfield extended his point streak to 10 games. And the NHL announced the 2026 Heritage Classic, Jets versus Canadiens in Winnipeg next October. Overall, this week in the NHL was pure chaos. Stars padding their legacies, rookies stealing the spotlight, comebacks, shutouts, streaks rising and collapsing, and every fan base trying to stay emotionally regulated. That's your NHL Roundup for the week. And if you've been listening for a while, you already know hockey never sleeps, it just relocates. Now, with all that being said, let's go into this week's hockey term of the week. La palabra de esta semana es breakaway. O, en español, contraataque. And honestly, it shows itself this week. A breakaway happens when a player gets behind a defense with a clear, lonely road straight to the goalie. En otras palabras, tú, tu velocidad, tu valentía, y literalmente nadie más. Just a solo quest. Like the hockey version of wandering through a haunted hallway, where the only jump scare is the goaltender. Y Flyers fans tuvimos un ejemplo hermoso, almost poetic, contra Colorado. Emil Andre launches a stretch pass, and suddenly Travis Konechny materializes alone. Gliding toward Blackwood, like he's walking dramatically into a My Chemical Romance music video. He waits, holds, picks his moment, and boom, goal. Punto 499 de su carrera.
Kicked it out of there, and now Andre looking to spring Konechny. He's got him now. Konechny cutting in. He scores!
A breakaway so clean, it could have been framed in a cathedral window. And here's the thing about breakaways. They look easy, they feel magical. Pero no, they're stressful. It's one player with the entire weight of the rink on their shoulders. It's basically, hi, if you mess this up, everyone will remember it forever. Un contraataque es drama, es literatura. It's the moments in the movie where the music slows down and your soul leaves your body for 3 seconds. So keep it simple. Breakaway, contraataque. When a player escapes the defense and goes one-on-one with the goalie. La pureza del caos. Así que esta semana aprendimos que un breakaway puede cambiar el ritmo, la vibra y hasta el alma de un juego. Y gracias a TK and his little gothic sprint toward 499, ahora sabemos reconocerlo. Breakaway, contraataque. La jugada que te deja sin aire in the best and most dramatic way. The Flyers will look to bounce back from that heartbreaking loss to the Colorado Avalanche on Sunday as they continue the second portion of their 2-week homestand, hosting the San Jose Sharks on Tuesday night. The Sharks are an up-and-coming team with young superstars like Macklin Celebrini and Will Smith. Still, this is a team the Flyers should be able to handle, but time will tell. Then, on Thursday, the Flyers will face the Vegas Golden Knights, and I will be in attendance because it's Educators Appreciation Night. So if you're going to the game, I will see you there. Also, I finally got my business cards in. Look at these babies! I will be handing them out during the game, so if you spot me, come say hi. I'll be in section 106. Now, will Carter Hart be in attendance too? That's the bigger question. He made his debut with the Vegas Golden Knights this past Tuesday, but missed Friday's game against the Devils due to a lower body injury. Uncanny timing, right before potentially making his return to Philadelphia on the opposing side. Then on Saturday, the Flyers close out their homestand with their first half of a back-to-back home-and-home series. Saturday night in Philly, and then Sunday at 5 p.m. down in Carolina. The Flyers have struggled with back-to-backs, and while they did win their most recent one, that trip was from Long Island to New Jersey. This one involves longer travel and a tougher opponent on consecutive nights. Let's hope they can close out this homestand on a strong note, because they've got a challenging road schedule coming up in the week ahead. And that's a wrap for this week's episode of Through the Glass. If you're enjoying the show, please take a moment to like, follow, and subscribe. It truly helps the channel grow, and I appreciate it more than you know. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Through the Glass PC for reels, updates, and behind-the-scenes chaos. Y, como siempre, stay spooky, Flyers fans. Bye!